Well, hello and welcome to this latest episode of Death and Glory, the film, part whatever it is, on the podcasts. Now today, I'm going to go and interview Kris Chase-Byrne of Black Train Music fame. Now he's one of the organisators, he's a person, but he works for Black Train Music, which is a music community organisation that's based here. And they do all kinds of groovy things. And he's running a couple of sessions, so let's go and find him. And we're going to do this in proper... professional filming style. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, I'm going to need a key, aren't I, to lock the door. Dodgy around here. Anyway, so here we go. We're going to go through. There we are. It's all a bit erratic there. That's slightly better. This is how we lock a door. If I was slicker, I would have planned all that, you know. Sorry if you get travel sick. There we go. So we're on our way now in a very professional style to meet with Kris Chase-Byrne of Black Train Music. He loves music. Beautiful. Beautiful. That was beautifully done, Kris. Let me rearrange everything. How's that? You don't know, you can't see it. I put that there so you know what we look like.
That's great.
I noticed you put me on a lower chair, so I look.
Can we keep that?
I don't know if I'm just a long way away.
No, I think that looks hilarious.
I'll have to Photoshop that so I look bigger.
No, let's keep it. That's hilarious. I love it.
It doesn't. So, this is Kris Chase-Byrne.
Hello, everyone.
I don't know whether you meant to talk to me or the camera.
I'll do both.
Yeah, because the camera's kind of just going to get your ear.
Is that better?
So our normal cameraman isn't here today. How's that? We haven't got a piano in then, giving a kind of piano-y vibe.
You okay? You had a beer?
No, not yet. So, do you have a new t-shirt?
Brilliant.
Thank you. So Kris Chase-Byrne, tell us a bit about yourself, Kris. Nothing too personal, but maybe your credit card details and the 3 numbers on the back.
I could give you those, but they'd be useless to anybody at the moment.
All right.
Well, musician.
Yes.
Local.
Yes.
Done some work with your church before.
Yes.
Lovely people.
Most of them, yes.
Yes. And I run that Black Train Music thing, which
I've heard
is
of
a
it.
community music organisation.
I'm aware of it, yes.
And that kind of brings us into the
is that it?
What I'm doing here.
So what are you doing here? Because you may not know, Kris, but we've got a season called Death and Glory.
Have you?
Yes, and in that season we're looking at death.
Yes.
And glory.
Wow. It's a good title then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It kind of fitted the themes.
Good title.
It's a lucky coincidence.
Yeah.
So we've done quite a few things, and we've actually booked you, and you kindly agreed.
Yes, I did.
To do. Do you want to tell us about what you're doing? There's 2, isn't there?
There is. The first session on Monday next week, which is the 25th.
Is it?
Is it of September?
I don't know. I should have written it down, shouldn't I?
Oh, yes.
That's the questions I'm going to ask you.
Okay. Brilliant. That only you can read.
Yeah, the secret.
Highly secret questions. So the 25th at 3 o'clock is the Song for My Funeral session, isn't it?
Sounds like some sort of weird Eurovision, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And that is a session where I'm inviting people to share what their exit music for their funeral is.
Well, that's good.
Or if they haven't chosen their exit music, they could potentially choose a song that they want to feature as part of their funeral service. It's the sort of thing that people have either had planned for ages and years, like I know what mine is.
Are you going to tell us, or do you have to go to the show?
You have to go to the session, because I want to share mine first. Get the death ball rolling.
Yes, the death juices flow.
Yeah. And yes, asking people to show what it is, and then we'll go around the circle, take it in turns, and we'll listen to it and talk about it in as much or as little depth as people wish to. Because this sort of thing could be difficult for some people to listen to, and might get emotional, that kind of thing. It's a safe space for that to happen.
Yeah.
And the amount of depth people talk about it is entirely up to them.
So even if you haven't got a song, you could come along and hear what other people have.
Absolutely, yes.
'Cause I've been around a bit,
Have you?
I've been around the coffin a few times myself.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised at the range of choices people have. Some of them you can kind of expect.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are kind of that, everyone has that, and you think, well, have it. If it's good,
And if it's what you want.
it's a bit like the traditional words for that sort of thing. If it's a good tune, it's a good song, it means a lot, use it. Don't not use it just because it's your funeral.
And it's kind of one of your marks of your last kind of, part of your existence, in a sense, your physical existence.
It,
so it is important, and whatever it is.
A lot of people like the Sinatra one, My Way.
My Way,
Yeah. The weirdest one I've had was Star Trekking.
Brilliant.
I've had one, I can't remember the name of it now, but it had quite a few obscenities in it. That wasn't my church though, so it wasn't really a problem.
Well, and people can choose whatever they like.
Well, they said about it because it was very sexy song,
right,
with obscenities in it. And was this appropriate? And I thought, well, I've never met you before, and I'll probably never meet you again.
Well,
so there is that. But I also said, well, if that's what he was like, and that's what he was about, and that song makes everyone smile and think of him, have it.
It's very true.
Yeah,
it's very true. Side story. Sorry, you probably might edit this out.
No, that's the end of my bit. You may speak now. I know I'm interviewing you, but I've got a lot to say.
There was a little side story talking about
we're going to edit this out already.
Funerals and that kind of thing. Have you seen that video of that Irish guy? His funeral. It was a burial, and he apparently had a crazy sense of humour. And he recorded himself before he died, knocking on something and asking to be let out.
I see.
And they played it at his graveside as they were lowering the coffin into the ground. So
I'm not sure what I think about that.
No, me neither. It's slightly hilarious, but at the same time, it's a bit like. But apparently, it was them. Everyone was saying it was a real reflection of his sense of humour.
Once they'd stopped crying, and the terror had been got over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, let me know. It was all like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
each to their own.
So that was the first session. Shall I talk about a second session?
I don't know. I haven't talked about my funeral song yet.
Okay. Are you going to talk about yours now?
No, you've got to come to the session.
You got to come to the session.
Well, I wasn't going to come because I normally go shopping on a Monday at 3.
Can you go at 4?
Will it be over by then?
It depends how many people turn up.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the trouble is, I find with this sort of thing is that your tastes change, don't they? So what I would have had a few years ago is different now.
Same.
But you can rest assured it's dreary and written by a man with a beard.
Yours is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Unless a song has been written by a man with a beard and it's dreary, you wouldn't like it, would you? I've said this to you before.
Yeah, I like it also when there's no particular sequence of notes. It just kind of meanders around a bit.
Okay. Like Jethro Tull's flute playing.
Hang on, that's jazz. No, it is jazz. Jazz blues inflected rock.
Inflected rock? What is that?
Fancy having a jazz inflection. That must hurt, mustn't it? Death and jazz. You heard it here first, kids. Yeah, what about the next session you're doing?
The next session.
I hope this is recording because some of this material, not much of it, but some of it is quite good.
You're going to keep that bit in.
Of course. I tell everyone I'm going to edit it down. I never do because I can't be bothered.
So the first session is a very interactive one.
Which one's that?
The one on Monday.
Oh, okay.
25th.
I wasn't listening.
So that's the music for my funeral.
Yeah.
So that's very interactive. It's about people sharing their experiences and choices and that kind of thing.
So you could, in theory, right? I don't want to go back to what we were talking about. You could, in theory, bring a song from someone else's funeral and say this was at their funeral and I liked it. And it still means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, with that music for your funeral stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to play the piano for that. Anyway, that stuff, whether it ruins the song forevermore. So whenever you hear Tina Turner, Simply the Best, well, I normally walk out anyway. But whenever you hear that, it always reminds you of that person.
It's very true. Yeah.
Do you think over time that we could be discussing this next week, everyone?
Yes.
But where over time that actually just becomes a warm association rather than
I think so.
I think I'm going to cry. Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, how music affects your soul?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, go on. What about the second
So the
session?
second session,
Will you get on with it?
So the first session is much more interactive, and the second session I'm kind of it's going to be more of a presentation.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to
love
look
presentations.
I think this is what you asked me to do. I'm going to look
Well,
at
you'd have to commit to it now, whatever you say now.
unless you say, no, that wasn't it, and then edit that out.
I might make you a suggestion, like, how about doing it this way? Let's see what you're doing first.
It's I'm going to be looking at funeral music, like through time.
Like a Time Lord.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to dress like one as well.
Are you?
No.
I normally do.
No. Yeah, true. So yeah, going right back to why funeral music was introduced into funerals and how it was introduced. I haven't quite gone as far back as I'm going to go back yet in my research. I keep going down a rabbit hole when I start looking.
Yes. How far back have you got so far? How does that in your research?
Victorians.
I think I'm going to say 1974.
Yeah. No, Victorians.
Yeah, they love the
and that was
funeral.
they loved the funeral. There's a lot about. I'm trying not to talk too much about the Victorians because it could be a whole session in itself.
I bet they had massive meandering somber tunes, didn't they?
Yeah.
See, a lot of our funerals nowadays, I think, are so heavily in this country, so heavily influenced by Victoria, and we think that's it. It's a bit like the folklore thing, which we can riff on about if we wanted. But everyone thinks folklore, but actually a lot of that was prettified or invented by the Victorians, and they did the same with funerals. So everyone thinks, well, that's always been our funeral, and it hasn't. So what do you think you'll find before the Victorians? The Georgians, probably.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the logical way to go.
I got that joke in before you there.
That's the logical way to go. I need to get past the Victorians first because there's so much information that I've discovered that I need to really kind of...
Now, how long have you been working on it?
What, in terms of hours or...?
Yeah, just give me a rough estimate. You can overestimate. I won't... I'm just thinking, how long have you got? Because if it's taking you like 4 months to get to the Victorians, we're never going to get anywhere.
I've done a few hours of reading and note-taking. Okay. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos as well.
Oh, nice.
Took a couple of notes from those.
Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Of course.
Very reliable source.
I like Wikipedia. It used to be a bit weird, but now actually very reliable, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to look at it through the ages and how it has changed and what the purpose of the music within a funeral has been. And at which point people started to make more choices about what happened in the music in their funerals to kind of what people are doing now.
And will you be focusing on the European music, or do you reckon?
I am bringing in some from all other cultures.
Well, that'll be that.
I'll say all. I mean, many other cultures. I won't say all because I might miss one out. And
there's a lot of cultures.
There's a lot of cultures. So yes.
Because that'd be interesting to compare maybe some variations, isn't it? Because you default, don't you think this is what everyone does, and they don't.
Yeah, it's very true.
So even in this country, going to different funerals from people with different backgrounds, it's fascinating seeing the role that people play, and the family, and who says what, and how they do it, and the music they use, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because I don't know that we now particularly have funeral music, do we? Do people write music for funerals?
Yeah.
Who? Name them.
I've got. Come to the session here where you'll find out.
Not that old trick.
I would say anything that I can think of at the top of my head, any music that has been written for a funeral has been written to mark the specific death of somebody, mainly of importance.
Right.
So there would have been some music written especially for Queen Elizabeth's funeral, for example.
Was there?
Yeah.
Who, like John Williams?
No.
He's the only one I know. Danny Elfman?
No. They're just film composers.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. I mean, Danny Elfman's probably written a lot of music associated with death.
Did he do the Tim Burton films?
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
So there you go then.
He's your man.
There is going to be a bit of that brought into there as well.
Oh, good.
Movies.
Yeah. See, we nearly did a film night, but there's so many films that you could choose. Yeah. And basically, I want a night off at some point in the next 2 months. So I didn't. What film would you recommend? I know we're not talking about films, and you haven't been prompted for this question.
No, I haven't.
I've got the answer.
Film recommend for what?
Related to this theme, if you're going to suggest a film. So I tell you what I'd suggest. I suggest a film called Still Life with Matthew. Is it Matthew Marsden?
I don't know.
No, you don't know, do you?
Don't know.
Great film. And I'm not going to say anything about it. Oh well, he works for the council. Apart from what I'm going to tell you, he works for the council, right? Yep. And he deals with funerals of people who've got no one,
right?
No family or friends. So when they die, they find them, and it's basically the story of what he does. And that sounds really dull. And the film is quite slow, which I love in a film, like the music. The film is quite slow, but it moves. It's not glacial. But it does progress. And I don't want to say too much because You just got to watch it, but don't watch it. You know, if you think, oh, I fancy a comedy tonight,
okay,
or an action thriller.
I've gone for films like that before.
Slow.
And I think, oh, they're in that. They're always in a funny film. This must be funny, and then I'm weeping 20 minutes.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your recommendation? Not that
I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't have one.
Well, have an awkward silence for the time being. So do you find here? I'm listening to questions.
I've been trying to read them to prep
No,
myself.
don't worry.
I'm going to see. Is that okay?
Yeah. I was going to edit it out, but I like the piano.
I'm a bit hay fevery today. Sorry.
Oh, bless you.
Oh, I'm allergic to boring people. One of the two things.
Could be both. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Hang on. Anyway, so do you find, as a musician, and I use the term loosely.
Rude. As a vicar, I use the term loosely.
Do you find this? I mean, be honest. Is this an interesting subject? Do you think? Or is it like this is a bit of an odd one? Interesting, but
no, I think it is. I definitely think it is because it is. I think we've said before, and I was going to definitely use this phrase in the sessions. I'll give you this one for free now. That listening to people's choices in music is like them bearing a bit of their soul.
Yeah, because you do that already in the Black Train music listening
this afternoon,
and
it could be just and as you say, people's tastes and needs for the music and stuff changes all the time.
Yes.
And if I do happen to change my mind on what I'm having at my funeral for the music, there's every chance I will, and it could happen tomorrow. What I play at the session next week could be very different to what's actually in my mind as being my choice today.
We do music sessions. There's a men's group that meets here, and every now and then we do a music session, and I like to pick something that people don't expect.
Yeah.
So we've had obviously a lot of ABBA.
Lovely.
Not really.
Oh.
Because I think music is soul bearing, isn't it? Which is partly why I don't like telling people what I like.
No, I get that.
Partly because I can't ever remember the names of them, but also it's like I don't. That's my business, not yours.
That's very true.
And I think I guess it depends how how music works in your life, doesn't it? For me, it's quite a personal thing. I find it very therapy is probably the wrong word, but I find it. It's a sanctuary, I think, for me. So, and I don't want other people in my sanctuary, thanks. Sanctuary. Get out of a sanctuary.
I mean, the other interesting thing I find about funeral music is the hymns people choose as well. And I've played for a lot of funerals in the same way you probably conducted a lot of funerals, and there are those that you will hear like every other funeral.
Yeah.
There'll be the same hymns and obviously there's a certain message within them. And it's kind of like, that's the bit where I feel, if I may say this, if I can't say this, then edit it out. But people are less creative when choosing funeral music.
I know what you mean.
The hymns aspect is they kind of go, well, that's good for a funeral, that's good for a funeral, and that's good for a funeral, let's have those.
Yeah. Well, I try and discourage people from having hymns, unless they're hymny people or specifically say, I want this hymn. Because they always have a hymn here. And then they scratch their heads trying to think of a hymn they know.
And then no one sings it when you turn up.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a blessing since. I mean, it's a shame to lose the real musician at the back on the old Hammond.
Yeah. Nice.
Rugged cross. It's a shame to lose that, but now they've got recordings. They have recordings with a choir.
Yeah.
So it's not just me doing a solo.
No, but then I played for a couple of funerals where actually it was a specific request of the deceased. Is that the word you choose?
Yes. I prefer the word dead.
The dead, or
we talked about that with the funeral director.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
The correct language.
Well, they like deceased or loved ones. I like dead.
Okay.
I'll talk about that in another one, okay. So stand by.
But they specifically requested that the hymns were actually just played as solo sort of instrumental piano things. So they had the tunes there, and people just sat and kind of had moments of...
That must have gone on a bit for the ones with 12 verses.
No, I didn't play all the verses.
Okay.
But there's a couple
Which
of... Which
verses did you miss out?
3 and 5 on most of them. But there's some that are really, really, really nice. The tunes themselves are really nice, and if people aren't singing them, or people trying to sing them in a funeral, when actually everyone's a bit, people are choked and that sort of stuff, it's hard to make a nice noise. Yeah,
I'm big on the if you're not people that sing, don't have hymns.
Yeah.
But it used to be. It's changed actually, because I've been doing this for a while now. When I first started out, almost every funeral had the old rugged cross.
Yep.
I haven't sung that for probably about 15 years now.
Yeah. And there's a lot of hymns that people have at their weddings and play at weddings and funerals.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a hilarious hymn that you'd have at both, but I can't.
But they tend to be like ones that just people know.
Yeah, so All Things Bright and Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's often. If people have a hymn, I think partly now because people who are I guess it's generational thing about hymns and school assemblies. So it's school assemblies people are ringing now, remembering. Because a few years back it was people, because there was a generation where virtually everyone went to Sunday school.
Yep.
And that generation isn't around as much now, so there's generations that remember school assemblies, so that's the hymns you get.
I'm just trying to think, there's one I play at a lot of funerals and I can't remember it. No, it's really nice.
Kakadu?
No.
Is it that one about pineapples fluffy? Do you know that one?
Isn't it cauliflower's fluffy?
It could be.
Pineapple's green. No.
It's not a vegetable show.
Oh, what is it? It's really bugging me, Neil.
Cauliflower's green?
No, it's a very traditional...
What, you're trying to think of the words to that song, or you're back on the...
It's a hymn that a lot of people have at their funerals.
What does it go like? Can you play it?
No, that's what I'm trying. I cannot remember. It's really, really irritating.
Do you remember the name or the tune?
No.
Oh, forget that then.
It's a very common one.
Anyway, so...
You keep doing that, I'm going to try if I can look at...
Oh, there's no time, I'm on to the last question.
Okay, sorry, go on.
So this is a personal question which I often ask at the end when I talk to people. What are your views on death and all that? So you can be as vague or as specific as you like. Do you find talking about it helps? Do you think this sort of thing, have you found it a kind of an interesting thing to do? Because often we dodge it.
I don't think I dodge it. I don't think I dodge it. I'm always been very intrigued by the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've always had an interest in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say I would half say it's kind of scary.
Right.
You know. Mainly because it's such an unknown, even though we know a lot about it, it's such an unknown at the same time. And I think it's a tragic thing, but at the same time, it's something that's going to happen to everybody, and it's one of the very few things we all have in common that we're all going to experience and go through on both sides of it, as in...
It is an inevitable, isn't it?
Of course, we're all going to die, and we're all going to know people that have died.
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting how everybody has a very, very different response to it. Very different response. There are some people that are kind of, would go through the most terrible, lengthy grief, and really struggle to kind of deal with any concept of that. And there are others that are kind of like, okay, that's done.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Even if people become gravely ill.
Yeah.
And they could, and this is actually something I was speaking to someone about the other day. They could, still be around for ages.
Yeah.
But in this very unwell state. But I think at the end of life, if someone is unwell, rather than their death come out of tragic circumstances like an accident or something like that I always believe there's an element, they have an element of choice over when they decide that they can whether it's just coincidental sort of evidence to that I've witnessed in my own life or something. But I believe that in those last days, moments, whatever, there's an element of control that they can decide that that's the point that they're going to let themselves go.
It certainly looks that way in some cases, doesn't it? Yeah, it's difficult, I guess, but we won't know on this side.
No, exactly.
We might know on the other side if there's nothing there.
Exactly. Well, we don't know about that, do we?
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever you believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did that answer your question?
I can't remember what it was now. I've moved on, yeah. Anyway, I think that's it. Thanks, Kris, for your time.
You're welcome. So the first one's Monday the 25th at 3 o'clock.
Monday the 25th at 3
and the second one is a different day, but in the evening at 7 o'clock.
But look at the website.
To the website.
On the Facebook page.
The Facebook called Neil's Leaflet.
Yeah. People struggle with that leaflet. But anyway, we'll leave that right now.
Okay.
So